Well, the players of the Arizona Coyotes were officially informed last night. The team will be moving to Utah, and now the focus shifts to what is the next step for NHL in terms of their potential expansion. We've got odds on all the cities that could be in play. How about this? Canada gets overlooked again for the southern U.S. Analyst points out Hockey Nation's continuous neglect in NHL expansion and relocation decisions. Now, obviously, this is a relocation decision. When it comes to expansion, certainly you would have to think Canada might be in line for another team if they do expand by two teams. Some people saying maybe even four teams to get the NHL up to 36, but this is happening. It's official. And I think the next step in terms of the Salt Lake City move is a total rebranding, a brand new colors, brand new logo, and also a new name, at least according to Ryan Smith, who is buying the team. And they will be building a brand new arena. We should get renderings on that at some point. But yesterday, I mean, this thing has happened so quickly. We originally thought June 27th was the date. It would be really late in terms of an NHL team relocating, considering the next season of NHL hockey would be starting in just a couple months if the June 27th date was correct on the potential, land bid and buying that. That turns out to be wrong. They're moving earlier than that, and now everything is official. We got reports they were making two schedules for both the Coyotes in Arizona and in Salt Lake City, and now they're only going to need to make one schedule with the Coyotes in Salt Lake City. A lot of people mad about this, angry about a team relocating. It happens during every single relocation, and we do have, now that the Mullet Arena situation is seemingly solved with the Coyotes very likely, moving into the Delta Center for a few years and then getting their own arena, who is next up on the expansion list, right? Because you look at MLB baseball, you've got the Rays situation, you've got the A's situation. They've said for a while, once those situations get resolved, they will push towards expansion. Is it the same for the NHL now that the Mullet Arena saga has been solved and they're out? They will not be playing at Mullet Arena anymore. They will be playing at an arena that does have a capacity right around NBA. Although I will say, when you look at the Delta Center, I've said this in a few different videos, the configuration is really bad for the NHL or just for hockey in general. Like, I don't know why it's so terrible. I don't know if the arena was not built for hockey originally, but normally it's kind of a seamless fit when you're talking about an arena going from NBA to both NHL and NBA. I don't really consider it multi-purpose because a hockey rink and an NBA court are like almost practically the same size, but the fit is really bad, and that's why they're going to be building a new arena, no doubt about it. You can see Quebec City. It's got a rich history. They love hockey. I don't know if you can say that about Salt Lake City. People skeptical on Salt Lake City. When it comes to Quebec City, the big problem I think Quebec City is going to have, the NHL doesn't want a Winnipeg 2.0 where you've got a passionate fan base, but it's really small. You look at what's going on in Winnipeg, the team, their playoff caliber, they're really good. They've been good all year, but they're not drawing in terms of total attendance. They had the lowest NHL attendance midway through the season, excluding the Arizona Coyotes, of course, because of their stadium situation. Also, possibly a second team in Toronto. I think that could be more likely even than Quebec City, even though Quebec City does have an arena, the Videotron Center, that's suited for a potential NHL team. A second team in Toronto, just because of how big that area is probably more likely than Quebec City at this point, based off of what's happened with Winnipeg, the lack of demand. Would the NHL really think that makes sense to put a team up in Quebec City? I think they've got a great fan base. They're ready for a team. It's just, I don't know if the NHL would risk that, considering you've got a similar city profile as Winnipeg when it comes to a smaller city that's really passionate. Yeah, but the issue is they're a smaller city, so I don't know. And then when you look at the expansion odds, this was a few weeks ago, obviously. I mean, you could say they got Salt Lake City correct. Salt Lake City is getting a team. It's not an expansion team, but they had the best odds overall, so you can check them off. And then you look at Houston, you look at Atlanta, you look at Kansas City, Quebec City. Those are like the big four right now in terms of the best odds. You also do have Milwaukee. And I would imagine they would play at the Pfizer Forum, home of the Milwaukee Bucks, brand new state-of-the-art arena. Toronto possibly getting another team. Hartford. Interesting, Hamilton is not on this list. And then also the Field. That's the Field you're talking about, like Cincinnati, Omaha, those type of places that were named back, if you remember, by the commissioner during the All-Star break. I think when you look at Houston and Atlanta, both of those would be underwhelming for me. They would both be underwhelming. The reason both of those places would be picked, Houston, it's high population density. Atlanta's trying to pitch the idea that they can build another arena kind of out of the way, like out of the city of Atlanta itself. They did this with Truist Park and the Atlanta Braves, and it worked out because they built an entire district and it gave them more room to build their ballpark district in the surrounding area. But Atlanta, they've gotten NHL teams before. It hasn't worked out. So Houston and Atlanta, I would say that's a no-go. Kansas City is another one. They're dealing with their own issues right now with both the Chiefs and the Royals. Now, they do already have an arena that's basically ready to go, the T-Mobile Center. It's kind of confusing. There's a T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas and a T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, and it's a decent arena. You know, it's hosted the Big 12 tournament and other events, and it would be good enough to be at least, I would say, kind of a mid-tier NHL arena, maybe like a little bit towards the bottom, but it's not horrible by any stretch. So Kansas City, I don't know if there's demand in Kansas City and there's enough people to really draw a team there when you think about the issues they've had with the Chiefs and the Royals already trying to work out that stadium situation with the Royals to build a brand new one. They're trying to secure the funding right now. They've got a lot going on. I don't know if bringing in another team is necessarily going to be the best in the best interest for Kansas City. Quebec City, I think they've got a chance. They've got a chance, just a smaller city. They love hockey. You know, if I could choose two teams, it would be Quebec City, and I would have to think about it. Probably a city in the United States. You know, maybe a place like Cincinnati, I think would be pretty cool, honestly. But I don't know the demand for NHL hockey in Cincy right now. You do also have Toronto, a second team in Toronto. I think that could happen based on how big Toronto is, hockey, how much it's loved in Canada. It's understandable. I mean, just think about it. Toronto is basically the New York of the NHL. And New York has both the Jets, the Giants, and the NHL, both the Yankees and the Mets. New York has so many different teams. Toronto is virtually that in terms of the NHL and the demand for hockey. So you could understand Toronto getting another team. It's happened before with cities getting two North American pro sports teams. And then Hartford, that seems very unrealistic, but I guess you could say it is possible. You can see Kansas City and Quebec City have also had NFL teams. Quebec far more recent. Kansas City would make a natural rival for the St. Louis Blues, and there's already an arena in place. Quebec City doesn't have the size or financial potential of other destinations, although nobody can discount the passion of the fan base. The same could be said for Hartford. An NHL team back in Connecticut, and then they also mention an NHL team possibly back in Connecticut, and then they also mention Milwaukee. They've had no NHL team, a surprise considering the climate and strong hockey interest in the state. The town would be on the smaller side. Yeah, Milwaukee's a very small market, especially when it comes to MLB. It's like the smallest market for a major league team. And then you also do have Toronto, considered the epicenter of hockey, and that's why Toronto could possibly get another team. So right now, I do think when you look at potentially NHL expansion, you're looking at one Canadian-based team and one team located in the lower 48. Maybe Milwaukee, maybe Kansas City. Maybe they go the route of going to the bigger city areas, you know, your Houstons, your Atlantas, places like that. Houston, I'm guessing they would just play at the Toyota Center. There's really no potential new pitch for an arena. In Atlanta, there is. It's called The Gathering, I think. There were new renderings on that. Quebec City already has an arena that was built relatively recently. Milwaukee has a brand new NBA arena that's ready to go. Toronto would be interesting. You know, would they build another arena? I'm guessing they would have to. And then another place I'll just throw in here at the end. They're not getting talked about, but I've heard some rumors. It is San Diego. And the idea is you're taking Arizona, you're going from warm weather to cold weather, you know, warm climate to cold climate, Arizona to Utah. Does the NHL feel the need to supplement that by putting an expansion team in a warm weather climate? And you do have the potential development for a brand new around 18,000 seat arena in San Diego with the beautiful weather and everything. And there are renderings for it. Those came out maybe about a year ago at this point, possibly talking about doing something to try and attract either an NBA expansion team, which seems almost impossible at this point based on where they're headed with Las Vegas and Seattle, or possibly an NHL team. Maybe this is an in for them with a desert-based climate team losing, the Coyotes. Possibly the NHL would want to supplement that, and they would put a team in a very beautiful area, beautiful climate, great weather in San Diego. That's just another thing to take into account. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.